مرحبا. مرحبا، أهلا وسهلا بالجميع، وشكرا لكل اللي انضموا لنا هلأ بهيدا الويبينار، واللي رح ينضموا كمان بعد شوي. نتأمل إنه تكونوا كتار. آه، كتير متحمسة وكتير مبسوطة إنه نكون معكم اليوم بأول جلسة لنا من مبادرة مختبر التوطين العربي. وهي مبادرة جديدة أطلقناها بميمو كيو. هدفنا أنه نحاول نوجد هذه المساحة المفتوحة للحوار عن اللغة العربية، عن التقنيات اللي بتتقاطع معها، عن تأثير الذكاء الاصطناعي على عملنا اليوم كمترجمين، كلغويين، كشركات توطين، وحتى كشركات بتقدم تكنولوجي بهيدي الصناعة. أول شيء خلوني أعرفكم عن حالي. أنا نورما سبيرا، أنا مديرة تطوير أعمال بشركة memoQ. انضميت للشركة من كم شهر تقريبا، يعني رح كفي 4 شهور كأول موظفة بتتحدث اللغة العربية. وكتير سعيدة بانضمامي للشركة ومحاولة الشركة لأنها هي تفهم أكثر هيدا السوق، ونتوجه أكثر للسوق العربي بمبادرة مثل هي المبادرة. وإن شاء الله لسه بكون في لسه كتير مبادرات شبيهة لقدام، ونجرب نعمل more solid partnerships. هلا أنا رح أطلب أو قبل ما أطلب من السبيكرز اليوم إنه يعرفوا عن حالهم. رح أحكي شوية معلومات the housekeeping information. الجلسة حتكون مدتها تقريبا 45 دقيقة. It's not like a presentation. نحن ما حيكون في عندنا presentation، هي جلسة نقاش حنتناقش فيها. نحن صراحة كنا عم نحاول نستخدم دائما الراوند تيبل ديسكشن كمصطلح للتعبير عن الجلسة اللي نحن عنا إياها اليوم، لأن هي منا ويبينار، هي جلسة نقاش من عم نحاول إنه نسمع آراء الكل، وكمان بهمنا إنه نحن نسمع آراءكم. فلا هيك آخر جزء منه حيكون مخصص لأسئلتكم اللي بتقدروا تسألوه عن طريق الكيو أند أي. تشوفوا هيدي الايكون اللي تحت مكتوب عليها كيو اند اي. نتمنى نسمع كثير اسئله منكم. كمان بحب خبركم انه الويبينار هو ريكوردد، عفوا الجلسه ريكوردد، وحتكون افيلبل على اليوتيوب شانل الخاصه بموكيو وعلى الويب سايت تبعنا ان شاء الله. وكمان في عندنا خيار الترجمه الفوريه، كمان بتقدروا تشوفوا الايكون الخاصه بخيار الترجمه الفوريه، بتضغطوا عليه وبتختاروا اللغه اللي انتم بتريدوها. هلا رح اطلب من السبيكرز انه يبلشوا يعرفونا عن حالهم. I will start with Balázs. Balázs, please can you introduce yourself to our joiners today?
Thank you, Norma. I apologize. I don't speak Arabic. I was able to catch a few words from what Norma was saying. So you have to bear with me in English, but we have interpretation. So my name is Balázs Kis. I'm one of the founders of memoQ. So this is pretty much the reason I'm here. And my original training is in software engineering, but later on I pivoted to linguistics. So my PhD is in linguistics. And we created memoQ 20 years ago, where I pretty much filled 7 different positions, if I count right, from product design to project management to actual executive management and compliance, stuff like that. Right now, I'm in a communication role. I represent the company in various events such as this one, and it is my privilege to be able to welcome you, and we are thrilled and honored to be able to start this Arabic localization lab, as we labeled it. And so it's a very warm welcome from me, and I hope you will enjoy and benefit from today's conversation.
Okay, thank you so much, Balázs. Wafaa, can you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. First, thank you very much, Norma, for the initiative. I think this is a kind of a unique initiative for Arabic Localization Lab or memoQ. So thank you for that, and thank you, of course, for the invitation. So my name is Wafaa, and I am the general manager of Saudisoft Egypt. Saudisoft is a Saudi company headquartered in Jeddah, while I'm managing the translation localization activities. I move actually between Egypt and Saudi Arabia a lot to make sure of the different customer base we have. My journey started maybe like Balázs a little bit from software engineering development point of view, and I specialized in Arabic enabling international products to be able to the right to left when actually there was no Arabic operating system. So this is I started like really long time ago, and moved of course to different roles like project management, development management, localization manager, and now I'm like one of the board members of Saudisoft. And also I represent the company because Saudisoft was one of the founding members for a couple of associations, Language Industry Association. So Saudisoft is one of the founding members for Gala. This was started in 2002. And I was privileged to be actually board member for 2 rounds. We also one of the founding member for the Egyptian Association for the Language Globalization and Localization. I also was one of the board members for 2 rounds, and I'm very happy to be here and share the information or the findings with you guys and with all the participants. Thank you again.
Thank you so much. Hussein, could you please now introduce yourself?
Thank you, Norma and Balázs and everyone behind this great initiative. I'm Hussein Abu-Rayyash, based at Kent State University, where I work on audiovisual translation, cognitive processing, and English-Arabic accessibility. I also teach at Miami University. And unlike Wafaa and Balázs, I come from the language and translation field. I closely look at how Arabic-speaking viewers actually read and experience translated content, especially when AI systems are involved. I was part of many projects, AI translation projects. I developed tools in subtitling, dubbing, and archival research, and I'm giving my life for translation and localization this time. Uh, I'm too much involved in how AI interact with normal people, with translators, or with managers to really produce good content for Arabic speakers.
Great, thank you so much, Hussein. And now I would like to hand it over to Balázs. Actually, I will be back in the Q&A part, but for now, I will hand it to Balázs to start this discussion. Thank you all, and I hope you will enjoy the discussion.
You probably have guessed, and also from the offer, from the way we advertise this webinar, this first installment is about AI in relation to the Arabic speaking world. And I was asked to provide a very quick overview of the state of AI globally. And then with my fellow panelists, we will go more specific. Before we go on, I would like to repeat what Norma just said. If you have questions, please turn to the Q&A panel in Zoom, and because this is where we follow your questions. This is where we can track which questions have been answered and which have remained. And if we don't have time to answer every question, we will follow up later. So no question will be left behind. During the introduction, I forgot that both memoQ and myself are based in Budapest, Hungary, so Central Europe. This is where I'm coming through to you today. So let's briefly talk about the global state of AI. This presentation will be available to you later. And the reason I included mostly text on this is so that you can return to this as reference and maybe look up some of the things, for instance, fact check me if you need to. let me start by stating the obvious. Generative AI dominates non-professional as well as professional language tasks, writing, summarizing, conversations, translation. And generative AI has also come to be involved in non-language tasks, management, project management, workflow management tasks, and through the so-called agentic AI. And it's everywhere. It's top of the mind. It's cheap, fluent, and many times it does an adequate job when you ask it to do something. Although when we tried to get ChatGPT to translate from Hungarian into Russian, the result was gibberish. So it's not all languages and language combinations. One of the reasons why our topic is what it is today. And it pretty much upset the translation and localization world. So there's an unpublished report. It will come later. But this was in a presentation at the ATA conference a few weeks ago. Since 2019, the revenues from translations in the United States dropped by 1/2, 49.9% to be exact. And translators and translation companies are reporting a drop from all over the world. And also, I'm involved with the European Masters of Translation Network through an expert group next to the European Commission. And the European education system is also struggling with the dwindling student numbers. So how do you make someone interested in a topic that is publicly labeled as dying out? And some translation schools are closing down. Monterrey may be the best known, but in Hungary, just 2 years ago, we had 8 university-level translation schools. Today, we have 2. So that's also part of the reality that we are facing. But not all of this is caused by AI. For instance, you probably know that for the first time in its history, the United States has an official language, and many of the translation assignments, translation contracts from the public sector have been pulled. So there are not all of this decrease is caused by AI. And other language services are showing a slight growth. And among that, because we come from the place we come from, like a translation technology company, traditional language technology also shows a bit of growth, but there's a lot of growth relating to AI, and most of that growth probably goes to the big public AI providers. So I painted a bleak picture up until now, right? But there's a but. There's always a but. Because generative AI as a technology is more limited than you think. I will briefly elaborate on that. Again, I'm trying to give you keywords, terms that you can look for and check or read up on what I said. I will include some references as well. So Gen AI needs all the data on the planet. It's not a secret that the major public AI providers have pretty much scraped the barrel. And currently, the condition of the largest AI models could be described with the term data starvation. And we know, because of the way it learns, we know and we have proof that this kind of AI, this kind of large language model type AI will not, because it's not able to evolve into artificial general intelligence. I'm not saying that artificial general intelligence is not possible to develop, but it won't emerge from large language models. That will be a different approach. And in that, I am also in agreement with this person, Jan Le Kun. I think this is how he pronounces it. You can actually look him up. He used to work for Meta. Lately, the Wall Street Journal and the Washington Post is full of his quotes, saying pretty much the exact same thing as I just told you. So let's go a bit into the details. Let's substantiate a bit what I just said. Generative AI needs much more data to learn than the human brain. The human brain optimizes. Human brain can deduce stuff from very little information, plus observing the world. And we make all kinds of, I mean, our central nervous system makes all kinds of crazy shortcuts. Gen AI is not able to make these shortcuts. So basically what we see is distributional learning, which pretty much means that we learn from the internal connections within the training data that the model is exposed to. And there are no further external stimuli. So it sees the data that we give them as training data, and that's it. And then we leave it to them, leave it to the model through its billions or trillions of parameters to make the connections between the things that there are in the training data. That's one of the things. And you know that you can also fine-tune models to be better at a specific task, and that is usually reinforcement training with a smaller amount of extra data. And this kind of reinforcement training is not like human learning. There is literature that pretty much proves that this kind of learning is more similar to how you train birds to deliver messages and other things. So that's how dissimilar it is to, generative AI is to the human brain. Gen AI also needs a lot of data and process preparation, aka engineering, and also a lot of supervision. If you just try to prompt ChatGPT on anything in particular, you will use a lot of energy, and most of the time you will need to repeat and try again and try again and try again until you get the answer you need. And we know that there are much more efficient uses of AI when you embed them into larger systems, when they get the proper so-called few-shot data, so the examples that they can work from, and their output is also processed properly. So it's not like you just take a large language model and sit it down in the place of a human worker and it would be able to replace them in the role. That's not happening. What is happening, that it is becoming or has become a very powerful automation tool. And it's powerful enough to still transform language work, but it's still just a tool, not another person to replace a human. So this is where I come to my second reference, that's Sayash Kapoor and Arvind Narayanan from Princeton University, who argued that generative AI should be treated as normal technology, and to translate it into a vernacular, it means another tool in the chest. Just the thing that I described in the previous slide. We will share this presentation. You will be able to use this link to read up on this view, this kind of approach in more detail. So, and generative AI is not even the best solution to all language or automation problems, because public models can be impractical for information security reasons. We have customers, and pretty much if anybody here in the audience is dealing with translation technology, delivering complex localization services to your clients, then you must have encountered these information security requirements. Many of our customers actually require on-premises models, and some of our customers in the life sciences fields have obtained their own private copies of Azure OpenAI, for instance, and they asked us to develop a solution so that they can use that particular copy and not the generic Azure OpenAI service. And also the demand on computational resources and energy could be significant. And what I advocate for is not to throw AI on any particular business problem mindlessly. So this is where I say minimum automation. If there's an older, simpler technology that solves the problem, we don't go and replace them. For instance, again, going back to memoQ, for example, memoQ has, I don't know how well it works for Arabic, I have to confess, but for European languages, it's pretty efficient. There's a predictive typing system in memoQ that uses a very simple statistical algorithm. It takes seconds to train, and it gives you an answer in milliseconds, and consumes next to no computational resources. We could replace it with an LLM, but what would be the point? Because it's an interactive system, it does a good enough job. So in other words, that I bring from engineering school with me, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So to sum up, and I'm finishing here, generative AI causes fundamental changes in the structure of language work, but it does not replace or displace humans. And the biggest change is that no one can be just a translator anymore. So the language work, the work of a language professional will be more complex, will comprise different kinds of work, tasks, maybe different lines of work come together in a single role that is filled by a language professional, but the language professional is needed and will be needed in the future. But the catch, no one will escape learning their mathematics in the future. I'm saying this, and this is my last ever sentence before we launch into the panel, that I know some translators who went to humanities schools to not, so that they can escape mathematics in their studies. That might not be possible in the future. So with that said, I will stop sharing my screen. Again, we will share this presentation. So we will talk with Wafaa and Hussein about the Arabic specific aspects of this. So let's start from this transition. So we know that large language models are English-centric. That is, most of the training data is in the English language. But what does that mean for using large language models for Arabic? More specifically, what is the impact on AI-based translation from and into Arabic? Do you detect any kind of shortcomings when it comes to working with Arabic, prompting in Arabic? I just returned from a conference that was here in Budapest last week, where we learned, and there was another article about that shared on LinkedIn, that while English has the largest amount of training data, for the OpenAI models, English is only the 6th best language when it comes to language understanding. It is more efficient to prompt the GPT models in Spanish and Polish, for instance. People measure this. So with that in mind, first, Wafaa and then Hussein, what is your take on this? What does recent research tell us about where AI performs well and where it struggles with Arabic?
Thank you for the question. So basically, it's not one fits all. It really depends on different factors. Like, are we trying this to translate from English to Arabic or from Arabic to English? One of the studies we actually implemented internally is to do like benchmark between different engines and how to, and evaluate the results as well. So, for example, we found out that when it comes, if you're translating specific material to legal, technical, health, the quality can be acceptable actually if you're using the large language model in general to translate these domains. So the domains also plays a major role in this. While if you're translating in the same domains from Arabic to English, you are going to have lower results. Also, it was very surprising to see that if the domain works well from English to Arabic, it doesn't mean that the same engine will work with the vice versa. So it really depends on many things. So the result is not the same across the engine based on the tool that you are using also. So the decision to use AI or large language model, it really varies based on these factors, like specifically the domain. So it works well with that, but it has its own drawbacks when it comes, let's say, to the tags, to the inserting of the tag. Arabic is a right to left language. So if you have many tags, we suffered with displacement of tags, sometimes removals of tags, and this affects the quality of the final output. At the same time, but it did acceptable in specific domains, of course, as I mentioned. However, it struggled with Arabic in some areas when it comes to, for example, creative translation. I would say games, specifically if we're talking about scripts. So if you're translating scripts that might include jargons, jokes in Arabic, you're not gonna have like the same good results. Also with religious, it has its own pitfalls actually. So it's not these domains, you cannot depend on them on large language model translation with the same level of quality as you depend on it for technical or legal translation. Based on this benchmark, we actually measured lots of areas like accuracy, fluency, consistency, terminology, expression, punctuation, formatting, and language grammars. There were also some tools that claim that they do good quality with Arabic, but we found that it struggles with some grammatical rules. For example, Arabic plural versus dual. We found some mistakes. We found some mistakes when it comes to numbers, because sometimes numbers, we do not write the numbers. So one, we do not leave it as one, or two. Sometimes we write it as itna or second, or it has different translation. So with this, we found many false positive for LQA tools as well. It has some good results, but it struggles with the others.
I keep muting myself. Thank you, Wafaa. Hussein, I hope you still remember the question. You can ask me to repeat, but what is your take on how AI performs in Arabic as opposed to English?
Thank you, Balázs. So maybe the question for me, do those large language models work? Yes. Do they work well? That's what we need to answer. So, as any Arabic speaker can or translator can say it, LLMs now change Arabic translation and localization, but still their impact for me is asymmetrical, strong in modern standard Arabic, I must say, but unstable in dialects, and deeply influential in how teams approach quality, speed, and workflows. For me, for the major positive impacts, too many positive impacts. If I can summarize them, I will say there is a dramatic improvement in MSA quality. Why? LLMs produce clearer, more coherent, more natural MSA than earlier MT systems or neural machine translation systems. And for formal content, such as documentation, UI settings, high-level summaries, MSA output is stronger there than anything produced. In terms of workflow, we're getting faster workflows and higher scalability. So now teams can localize large volumes quickly with AI-assisted drafting, translating, localizing, whatever, which shift humans' effort from a pure translation to, as Balázs said earlier, not just a translation to review, style guidance, error correction, data annotation, and so on. We're not living in the translator solo age now. We're living in the translator, the multi roles of the translator the multilingual and the multidisciplinary translator. When it comes to the ability to translate context, LLMs understand tone, domain, and intent more effectively, which helps with terminology, context-sensitive phrasing, reducing literal mistranslations. However, when it comes to the challenges, also too many, especially when it comes to dialect performance. Dialect performance for me remains inconsistent. LLMs often misread dialect input and produce dialect output that, feels generic, mixed, or artificial. And here, maybe for me, the reason is simple, is dialect data is limited, messy, and regionally uneven. And this is the biggest gap when it comes to Arabic. Another reason, which is the risk of modern standard Arabic dominance, where in other contexts dialect is required, such as in game localization, cartoons, advertisements, and so on. For me, LLMs often default back to MSA each time. So if you ask them, please go and translate this into Saudi Janubi, Arabic Shami, Jordanian, whatever. It gives you some hints from the dialect, but it mixes it with other dialects, a big issue. Combine it with MSA, another issue. Also, it creates unrealistic formal, let's say, emotionally flat localization in terms of voice interfaces, for voice interfaces, for customer support, games, and so on. And the most, let me say, the most prominent risk here, which is erasing regional identity. If LLM output is adapted as is, products may present a homogeneous modern standard Arabic voice that does not reflect the needed dialect when it comes to Gulf, Levantine, Egyptian, Maghrebi, so on. So reducing user trust and relatability.
Thank you very much. Hussein, you actually answered my next question. That was I was going to ask you to enlighten me about this relationship with modern standard Arabic and the dialects, the regional dialects. And thank you for that. We heard a lot. And I remember when we spoke to Wafaa before, she presented us with a slightly different point of view. So Wafaa, please give us your take on this. Where are, in your experience, where are dialects needed, and how, when you need to work into a dialect or from a dialect, how do you need to adjust your workflows or your language resources? What works well, what doesn't?
For dialects, actually, based on my experience, based on our experience, like really the real life experience for games, for example, we see MSA as taking the prominent now more and more. There is a legacy specific. I am very, I have to focus on domain, actually, because it's not one fits all again. So for games, for example, the history was based on the Egyptian dialect, for example, and then moved to Levant dialect and all this stuff. So, and this created a struggle in the games industry. So now to avoid all these, and from the customer side, they more tend to use tend to use the MSA actually for the games. So to reach wide range of the audience. At the same time, it's very important for the dialects when it comes to, let's say, e-commerce. If we are talking about marketing material for luxurious products or cosmetics for female in Saudi Arabia, for example, this would be better to use the dialect. And if we're talking about dialects in Saudi Arabia, this is a different story, because in Saudi Arabia, by itself, there are like different dialect. There is Hijazi, there is Najdi, there is the white Saudi dialect. So you would have different side of dialects. We had an issue once when we were talking to one of the customers. It was a technical communication products. And when we started to offer the difference between and the product and the customer was in Saudi Arabia, and reducing telecommunication, business to business, text, even if it's marketing, in Saudi dialect was not accepted. However, they tend to use they actually prefer to use the MSA because it's a B2B business, and MSA is more is widely used and more common to use in this specific domain, I mean, the technical domain. So this is my experience based on the dialect, but I agree with Hussein that the LLMs is by far better when it comes to MSA than the dialects. I tend to agree that. I also have to mention something that you mentioned, Balázs, when it comes to using AI, that the data privacy is really a big concern for some direct customers to use. They refrain from using it. While it's very fast, true, as Hussein mentioned, and as you mentioned, it's very fast to use, especially with integration with the market tools, marketing translation tools. So it's very fast. So workflows are automated, which is very good. So it introduces also fast, but the customers more into the compliance, for example. So that's why it's very important in this area to have a human in the loop. So I totally agree that AI does not mean removing translation or like taking the translator away or taking the humans away. But we have to complement with AI and with the results that AI is providing us. So putting AI plus human is very important, I guess.
Thank you very much.
So this is my take in general. I mean, to wrap up for both questions.
If I may.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So I would disagree a little bit with you, Wafaa, here. So
we have two different perspectives here.
Yeah, so I think for decades the Arabic localization industry, was built on modern standard Arabic because it was the only variety that felt safe across countries. Localization firms or translation firms treated MSA as the universal solution. It was neutral, widely taught, and stable, and it avoided the political and cultural sensitivities that come with choosing one dialect over another. And I think this made sense in the era of manuals, documentation, banking portals, and so on. But this legacy created a habit, which is localization workflows, translation memories, terminology bases, and corporate style guides became MSA-centric. The problem today is that customer expectations have shifted dramatically, and the traditional MSA model does not match how people actually interact with digital products. Users now engage with voice assistants, chatbots, short-form content, games, customer support chats, social experiences, and all of these people expect dialect, not high formal MSA. So
yeah, but when it comes to software devices or very high tech products, no, they don't. Yeah, this is what I'm saying. It's not anymore the MSA only.
Yes.
But it's not anymore. But there are specifics, as I said, for e-commerce, for example. Sometimes no, there are customers. If it's noon, for example, in United Arab Emirates, sometimes you would get this dialect specific for specific products. So yeah, it's no longer only MSA, but MSA in specific domain. This is what I'm saying. While in other domains, of course, dialects are needed, are definitely are needed. Marketing material for marketing ads, like the voiceover for the advertising, for the commercials. We have commercial customers that they are asking us to do this in dialects.
Yes.
But when it comes to software, it is MSA. So MSA is still dominating in many domains, by the way, still.
I do agree, and I remember, I think it was in last I think April, when Mr. Beast visited Egypt, and they did I think 100 hour in the pyramids, and the channel localized the content into more than 30 languages, and modern standard Arabic was there, and the Egyptian dialect was there. And what was really, cool, that I read most of the comments. I were interested in what people think of this. Almost 95% were attracted to the video because it was localized in Egyptian, not in MSA. So imagine this. And we know that, when it comes to those international entertainers, most of them use, those when they make contracts with other companies to make their content localized, they use MSA. So imagine this, 90 to 95% were attracted to the video just because it was localized into Egyptian. So we need this shift.
But
in
take
terms
care
of all
take care
domains.
of the numbers, because 99, maybe because of the population in Egypt, are really huge. It doesn't mean
for sure. But we're talking about numbers. We're not just talking about what localization companies want.
Yeah. But of course, it depends on the, as I said, it depends on the domain. Where are you? What is the typical consumer of the content?
I agree.
Thank you. It's really interesting to listen to this. It's from the point of view of sociolinguistics, which is one of the disciplines I had to learn as part of my linguistic studies. It's a very exciting and multi-layered world, the Arabic speaking world. What I am hearing, and forgive me for simplifying, because that also has to do with the time that is passing, that we see that there is a need to localize into and from modern standard Arabic, and there is also a need to localize to and from regional dialects. I guess some dialects more than others. So must be some dialects that are economically more significant, or because the sheer population that speaks them are becoming significant. However, what I'm also hearing is that modern standard Arabic is well resourced when it comes to AI-based machine translation workflows. So that's most of the time you can get this adequate quality that I also mentioned in my introduction. Whereas most dialects are not so well resourced, and there are gaps, and there is research to be done. We are receiving some questions and comments from the audience, and Ahmed Miliji, I'm hoping I'm not butchering your names. We will have some installments of the Arabic Localization Lab that will be entirely in Arabic, where the names won't be butchered. So he says a lot of human effort is needed to educate the machine, but I think it's doable. And this is where I remember Hussein telling us in an earlier conversation that it could be hard because of the lack of data, lack of training corpuses that are not available. So that's a lot of work to create the data, digitize the data, collect the data, and then use it to train models. That's one. And Mahmoud Gandhi Al-Sharif says, even when we use MSA, we still need to choose the wording based on the context and consider whether the target audience will accept and understand the terms. So even if that tells me, and my assumption is that even if you are writing in MSA or translating into MSA, there might be variations in terminology and phraseology depending on the geography of your audience. Is that true? What is your take on that? Because we talked about the hunger for data with Hussein, and we talked about the compliance with the very specific quality requirements with Wafaa. So both of you tell me what your take on these comments are.
What is the question again? What is the take on what? I'm trying to read the question.
My assumption was that even if you translate into MSA or write in MSA, there might be variations in terminology and phraseology depending on your audience, depending on the geography of your audience. So this is how I read this comment in the questions panel. Am I correct in assuming that? That's my question.
Yes, because terminology is really, even if in MSA, we were having actually a big struggle recently because of two basic terms, two old terminology. One of them was infrastructure. We're translating to MSA for customer in Saudi Arabia, while they are using internally infrastructure with totally different meaning or different translation, let me say. So, I mean, like the standard term translation for infrastructure is translated with something, while this specific customer need to translate it in a different way. So this assumption is true. Even if your translation into MSA, terminology is a challenge. And this is one of the things that I was mentioning when we did the benchmark. Terminology is very important. In some domains, this is not one of the quality criteria that's necessary or required. So if you're translating something general, for example, this wouldn't cause an issue. While if you're translating a governmental document and translating one simple word in a different other than the terminology used internally, that causes a huge issue. So I agree with that.
Thank you very much. Let's turn over to Hussein. So my question is about the situation with the data to train models for dialects. And also we have a question here for you, Hussein, from Ahmed Nasser. With over 30 dialects across the Arabic world and the lack of well-defined grammatical system for some of these dialects, what do you think would be an appropriate approach if we'd like to avoid MSA? I don't think the point is to avoid MSA, but to provide adequate coverage for the dialects. However, I think this pairs nicely with my question, more general question about the data situation. So what is your take on it, Hussein?
Thank you, Balázs. Again, we're not trying to avoid MSA at all, but we need to understand the deal. We need to understand the context, what we need and what we want and why, and how should we deal with AI models when it comes to, the human-computer interaction with them. 30 dialects and more. However, again, and here I agree with Wafaa about the domain, the genre. If it's more governmental, more governed by entities, so you need it in MSA. If your client needs more reach, needs a specific audience, so for example, if a company came to you and said, okay, we need this cartoon show to be translated into Jordanian Arabic. So here the focus on Jordanian Arabic. They know what their audience are, children. So now you need to adapt, which is a main concept when it comes to localization. You want to adapt your content into those two main, let's say, components, the audience and the domain itself. And again, when it comes to data, and here I'm speaking from an academic and researcher standpoint, most of the models really fail when it comes to dialects. And here I'm talking about the specific domains. I was exploring ChatGPT yesterday with the Jordanian dialect, and I just gave it, you know, a short sentence, and I said, okay, translate this into me with a specific characteristics. In this sentence, I got 4 main errors. One when it comes to cultural fit, another one linguistic, another one audience, and the fourth one the mismatch of the dialect. It gave me some 2 words from Egypt and another word from Saudi, which is, you know, this is the mismatch that we need to avoid when it comes to interacting with those large language models.
And when there are variants, then the large language models will be prone to mix them up, and that happens to other languages as well, not just Arabic. So
I agree.
And this is one of the reasons why we need human supervision. Thank you very much for your answers, Wafaa and Hussein. We are approaching the end of our time, and I see 3 questions in the questions pane that still need answering. I think we need to clarify a bit what is suitable as training it and what isn't, because there's a question from someone from a linguistic perspective. Is it possible that we can use, for instance, Egyptian grammar rules books in order to feed AI engines? And I would say not, because AI doesn't work from grammar rules. We used to, I am one of those persons who back in the day, almost 3 decades ago, I had written a rule-based machine translation engine, a completely useless achievement. If you look at it from 2025, those things took grammar rules. So that's why you could actually process grammar rules books and use it for rule-based machine translation. We all know how that turned out and how it proved to be a dead end. So most of the time need is a lot of text, spoken and written. This is what you train your AI from. And if you are very welcome to clarify your question if I misunderstood the question. And we have just I'd like to answer the very first question. Does artificial general intelligence refer to the same as singularity? And my answer is no, because artificial general intelligence is what the term says, is general intelligence. It doesn't say whether it's more or less intelligent than a human being. Singularity is the artificial general superintelligence, when AI in all settings and all scenes surpasses human intelligence. And I don't think any of the predictions about singularity are valid. The artificial general intelligence, while we don't say that it has to surpass human intelligence, I think that's more tangible, and it's something that can actually motivate research in a positive way. And I think this last question I saw, and now we are getting the questions from translators. Khaled Dabour asks, and I want both of you to answer this. For a professional translator or localization specialist, what key takeaway or practical insight from this webinar can be immediately implemented to improve the quality and efficiency of Arabic translation projects that involve AI tools? And I think this is a beautiful last question, and I know we have more questions and we will follow up on them, but I want both Hussein and Wafaa to answer this one.
For a professional translator or localization specialist, what key takeaway or practical insight? The practical insight is basically, I would say, do the AI quality assessment before using it. I mean, like you cannot use because there is as you said, there is an LLM that does well with a specific content that can be used. Spend some time at the beginning to evaluate the model if the customer, of course, allowed this, because sometimes the customer disallow using AI, generally speaking. So I would say that you need to do a simple benchmark, given the type of the content you have, do this assessment between different engines, and based on that, you can use the best engine that suits you. definitely a quality person should be involved in the loop so that you can decide which one to use. This would be the first takeaway. I should be evaluated by human before using it.
Hussein, what is your take on this question?
Yes, I will let the translator inside me to answer this question.
Please do.
So for me, first, MSA is no longer enough for many domains. Clients are increasingly expect dialect appropriate output for voice, chat, games, customer-facing content, and other. And when it comes to use MSA and switch to dialect, I think a translator who can judge when to use MSA and when to switch to the dialect will be far more valuable. Second, I think dialects require controlled creativity. Working in dialect doesn't mean being casual or random. It means choosing phrasing that is natural, region appropriate, and respectful of cultural norms. And this is a skill that translators already have, but AI does not. Third, let's talk about post-editing. Post-editing AI output is becoming a core task. AI can draft a clean MSA, but translators must correct tune, fix cultural mismatches, and adjust register. And I think finally, the future is hybrid. Human translators now set the voice, the tune, the authenticity, the quality standard. You're not just a translator. To sum up, the more you understand dialects, tune, and cultural references, the harder you are to replace, because that's exactly where I is weakest for now.
Thank you very much, both of you. Let me add just one thought that occurred to me right now. We are at the end of our time. That for a language professional, I think it became more important to talk to your clients, to be specific and unambiguous about the quality requirements. So we could, while it was an interaction between a client and an LSP running a human-based translation workflow, my experience is that we relied much more on implicit quality requirements. Everybody had a picture of what quality is, but when we put AI in the mix and we need to look for specific things, kinds of errors that humans don't make. Humans make different kinds of errors. Kind of post-editing and reviewing steps that we need to take. I think it's important that the quality requirements become much more explicit than before. So that is also I think it's a takeaway that you talk to your client and be very explicit about quality requirements. Like I said, we have questions coming in. Unfortunately, we are at the end of our time, but as I promised, no question is left behind. So we will follow up on these questions and we will return to you with answers. For now, I'm afraid we need to finish. So Norma, do you want to take back and close this first installment of
Yes,
the Arabic
sure.
Localization Labs?
Okay, thank you all. I can't switch to Arabic. Okay, شكرا للكل. كثير انبسطنا بهي الجلسة النقاش. بعرف لسه في كثير مواضيع ممكن نحكي فيها بموضوع اللغة العربية لصراحة، لأنه هو موضوع يعني كبير ومتشعب، واللغة العربية بحد ذاتها هي معنى لغة سهلة يعني. يعني هي لغة غنية جدا بالجذور اللغوية يلي بتخلي أي ذكاء اصطناعي يعاني من التعامل معها. صعب الإحاطة فيها، يعني نحن عم نتعلم لغة عربية لسنين طويلة، ومع هيك لليوم أنت ممكن تصادف كلمات ممكن تكون أول مرة بتسمع فيها بسبب غناها الكبير. وأكيد هيدا الشيء ممكن نحن نرجع له مرة ثانية بجلسات قادمة، لأنه كمان إن شاء الله هيدي المبادرة حتكون سلسلة من الجلسات. الجلسة القادمة غالبا حتكون بآخر شهر يناير، جانيوري، أو ببداية فبراير. it's not finished yet، يعني لسه ما خبرنا، ما وصلنا لقرار نهائي بهذا الموضوع، بس الفيدباك من كل اللي موجودين معنا اليوم كثير مهمة. بنتمنى تتواصلوا معنا، تخبرونا. مثل ما حكى بلاش كمان، الأسئلة يلي ما جاوبنا عليها حنجاوب عليها إذا الله راد يوزين إيميل، وبنتمنى نسمع الفيدباك منكم، لأنه هي الفيدباك هي اللي بتخلينا نستمر بهي السلسلة. وشكرا كثير للكل. إن شاء الله هيك نهاية يوم عمل سعيد للأشخاص يلي عم ينتهي يوم عملهم هلا، وبقية نهار سعيد للباقي اللي مكفاين بنهارهم. شكرا كثير لكم.
شكرا نورما. And by the way, I liked very much the post you posted today on LinkedIn using your dialect.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you.
She's localizing her content.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, you know.
She has all the necessary experience, actually.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you all, and looking forward to seeing you all again.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
This was really exciting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.